Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone. In this lecture we will discuss about the strategies of like a 3R: reduce, reuse and recycle. You may have seen this logo and most of the like products and packagings and items. So this actually represents the recyclability actually feature of that particular product or that package. So this product actually is designed, if you have seen this logo on something, so that means this product is actually designed for like a reuse, recyclability, or reducing actually the impact in overall sense. So we will see in detail like life cycle environmental strategy and consideration. So there are actually certain possibilities at different stages of the actually the product at which this can be used for like a these kind of like a strategies. So for example, if you see over here at the product level, the complete product, okay, so this actually talks about the end of the life strategies like for the recovery options. So all of these are actually at the end of the life actually cycle of any product. So mainly actually they are used at that stage. So at the product level, and this the second one talks about the component level. So on the product level, the reuse of the product can be actually thought of, remanufacturing of the product can be thought of, recycling, recovery of the components can be actually thought of, and dismantling and shredding and recycling of the product again can be thought of. So from the recovery, if you see, it goes in the like a component level. So from recovery we can again make use of the components of that that product, or we can again go for the remanufacturing of those components. We can go for the recycling and dismantling and shredding of those components which are found. So basically the same philosophies, but at the whole product level and at the whole component level only. So how this recovery curve and optimization of recovery actually planning can be actually. So this is actually this paper suggests this illustration over here, this graph you can see. So it has like on the x-axis it has like a no recovery to like a full recovery. So if a product is able to be recovered like a completely, or if a product is able to be not recovered like a completely, so on that we can have somewhere in the middle. And on the y-axis there is this cost or the revenues actually. So the when we go for the actually recovery process, it takes certain amount of like energy and certain amount of like a money. So how like that can be minimized, or if it increases actually over the time. So this actually goes for the like if it increases, if the cost of the recycling or the recovery is very high, then it starts going very up. So we will see over here, this actually line suggests the cost of the recovery. So with the disassembly, testing and remanufacturing, as the actually effort actually goes more and more, the cost of actually starts increasing. And this actually line talks about the revenue from the recovery. So we start getting a minimal like amount, from there it starts increasing, and at time it reaches that to a kind of a stabilized actually recovery or the revenue which can actually take place from the recovery of that material. This dotted line actually talks about here this profit curve. So up to a certain stage it can be like a profitable. This is the actually optimal recovery threshold of this particular chosen product for the recovery, and after that actually the profit actually starts going down. So from here I think up till this stage one can actually go for like a responsible and optimized actually recovery. After that the recovery can still be like done if the product is like hazardous or toxic to be just let loose in the like ecosystem. Then even after like it doesn't gives like a desirable like a profit, but it must be actually recovered and completely disposed for like a complete actually, or the minimal possible actually impact on the ecology. So there are some actually guidelines, there are some actually approaches, there are some strategies which talk about like a design for like a disassembly. So what is the like a disassembly? Like a dismantling the we discussed in the like a previous lecture. We will discuss here it in the detail. So at the different like design levels, for example like a frame design, part design or joint design, okay, we can go for like a separate guidelines or strategies, okay, which suits actually the need at that particular actually time. So for example, like a separatability of toxic or harmful parts and materials, the one we just spoke in the previous slide. Okay, separatability of like a high value parts and materials, subdivision into easily separable subunits, modularity of architecture, simplification of the hierarchy of connections between parts, pre-arrangement of accessible and recognizable pathways for like a disassembly operations. On the part design, if you see like a less variety or incompatibility of the materials. So this we have discussed a few times earlier also. The product should not be actually that difficult to dismantle, or it should not be actually so rigid or strong that it becomes economically like infeasible to segregate them. For example, like alloys, I have been giving like a example like several times. So there are some other types of like compounds also which become very difficult, very complex to actually bifurcate them into their like other like elemental components. And yeah, so presence of flat surfaces and standardized handholds, arrangement of like a handholds near the center of gravity, provisions of lines or areas of preferential like a breakage, provisions of like a cutting or a fracture path along the interfaces of the incompatible materials, highlighting breakage points to facilitate identifying and reaching them. So these are the actually strategies or the approaches which we can adopt for like a part design, for example in the geometries and materials. And in the joint design, if you see like for example junctions of like a different materials or the same material, so using like a reversible junction system, okay, using like a junction elements that can be destroyed physically or chemically, less variety of fasteners and fewer types of fasteners that are like a difficult to remove. Fasteners are very difficult to actually, once actually they are planted in any like a concrete or brick material, they are going to be there for like always, unless that actually wall or that concrete unit is broken, because there is no mechanism to actually plug these fasteners out of that actually material. So we have to be very careful while actually planting these fasteners in the building structures. Less variety of fasteners and fewer types of fasteners that are difficult to remove, fewer fastening systems that to be opened require simultaneous actions. So there are some actually fasteners which are available that are up to like a certain components of those fasteners can be actually taken out. So those kind of recoveries are advisable to go ahead in the buildings. Well, specific determinant factors for end of life strategies, if we see like reusing, remanufacturing, recycling, we have been speaking of. So physical or mechanical deterioration, risk of the damage, and technological obsolescence, and reliability and durability of components and system, ease of assembly. So these are actually characteristics and factors for like reusing any like a product after the like end of the life cycle stage. For like a remanufacturing, physical or mechanical deterioration, again like a technological obsolescence, reliability, durability of components of the system, ease of disassembly, and cheapness of remanufacturing process. So the process has to be actually economically viable also for going for like a remanufacturing. Otherwise, if it is equal or more than the new material itself, it will be very difficult to apply actually such strategies or approaches in those cases. For recycling, physical or mechanical deterioration is of course there, technological obsolescence is there, reliability and durability of components and system, recyclability and value of the materials, and ease of material separation and cheapness of recycling processes. So these are actually factors to actually help this strategy of like recycling. Well, so we can talk about some design expedients over here, like a choice of the material, a junction system, and layout of the product. So minimizing the number of different materials, making sub-assemblies and parts irreversibly connected from a single material or from compatible materials, use both recyclable and recycled materials, avoid the use of toxic or dangerous materials, avoid metal inserts or enforcing in plastic components. Okay, so these could be actually for the like a better choice of the material. And then if you go for the junction system, minimizing the number of junctions and the number of different types of junctions. Okay, because junctions and joints actually complicate the structure, so the lesser the number of joints and junctions are there, the more efficient the system will be for like a design for like a disassembly and disposal. Use the rapidly reversible junctions, especially for the like connections of high value components or incompatible components. Make point of junction easily accessible. Use junction made from like materials compatible with the connected parts. Provide for separation for braking to accelerate their disassembly process. Simplify and standardize the junctions between the components. Finally, for the layout of the product, minimize the number of parts, make the architecture as modular as possible. So, well, you may be knowing already this modularity. So, modularity is one of the characteristics, one of the strategies to actually design products with the component, actually the multiplication of the component wise, so that the if we need like a more units of like that product, so the same product can come and join the first product, and they can actually multiply in the number. So the applicability, it offers actually ease of like applicability, ease of the like a flexibility, and it offers actually in the same variety we can have actually multiple like uses. Separating the functions of the component, locate non-recyclable parts so that they are easily detachable, locate parts of the high value so that they are like easily accessible and easily recoverable. So these are the some strategies which are associated with these 3 R's, okay, and which we can actually take care of while at the design stage only of the product. Some variables of like some design variables you can see over here. In conclusion, from the analysis of the specific determinant factors for the end of the life strategies and of the design experience dictated at achieving the requisites of the product recoverability at the end of its useful life, it is possible to identify the main design variables upon which interventions can be made in order to follow the strategies in question. So for like a choice of material, depending upon their properties of the durability and recyclability, material influence the opportuneness of recovery. Geometries of the parts, if you see, like influence the ease of the disassembly and also the characteristics of durability. Layout of the products, if you see, influences like a component accessibility, can allow the grouping of components according to their functionality or other performance characteristics in relation to the recovery strategies. Finally, the modularity of the architecture, if you see, we discussed on the previous slide, it influences the ease of the access, separation and recovery of components or sub-assemblies. So well, all of these together, they provide this ease of like a disassembly, ease of like dismantling, separating the components of the and utilizing them, maybe remanufacturing them into like a new goods, or repurposing them for like a new purposes and new applications. So such activities can be actually taken off at the end of the life stage of that product. And design for like disassembly and disassembly like level. So in the design phase, making choices that can favor the disassembly of the constructional system. In this case, this is like design for assembly DFD. Attempting to best plan and optimize the disassembly process. In this case, this is like a disassembly process planning, DPP. Okay, design for disassembly can therefore be defined as a design approach wherein the objective is to optimize the architecture and all other constructional characteristics of a product in relation to the following main requirements. Those are the simple and rapid separability of parts to be serviced or recovered, and second, limiting the time and costs of disassembly. So these are the actually two approaches, the two main objectives of design for like a disassembly, through which we can actually work for like a sustainable product actually and service system. Well, these 3 R's you can see over here. This is an illustration from WWF. What we consume and the packaging it comes in creates over a ton of waste per household per day. So it talks about like creating the waste and also how these things can be actually these strategies can be actually applied in like a different like scenarios. So this talks about landfills release like large amount of like methane gases H4, which contributes of course to the climate change. This is a universal fact now. And how we can be part of this solution. So well, there are some very simple solution and behavior based like things, behavior based actually values are given over here. For example, the first R, it talks about like refusing. So we must say actually no to those hazardous like products or items or substances which have actually the potential of actually damaging the ecosystem. We should always go for actually recycling of like most of the stuffs, whichever we can at least find some place for like papers, plastics, cardboards, etc., because these are actually easily recyclable materials. They can easily go to like those, if it is like a paper and this thing, they can easily go to the paper processing actually pulp industry and can actually be reused. For the we can avoid actually non-recyclable items like thermocol based actually utensils and things. They are very bad, they are very hazardous. We can reduce the actually the amount, we can reduce the actually consumption. We can make the move to clean the energy. Actually, we can move towards actually reducing the impact through this approach also. We can go for actually reducing the energy, we can go for reducing the use of the consumption of the material. We can go for actually composting at household level. This is one of the easiest solution. In the recent years, there are several agencies and NGOs who are actually helping households to establish such a facility within the premises of a house, and it doesn't require much of an investment. It's just the intent you need and some maybe a few $100, and that you will be having your own actually biocomposter at your home. You must actually look on the internet to look for some easily solutions, some hand-based actually solutions, so that you can start doing this activity at your home only. Okay, and there is another approach of reusing. Okay, so we should not actually throw stuff if there is some potential of in that product to be being as some other material or some other application. So we must actually reuse it. Okay, or maybe we can upcycle it, and at worst at least we can downcycle it. We must choose actually responsible materials which are rated. We can always go for reusing such stuff. So we can always go for refill packs of several products. Okay, we should not buy the main product with the boxes and other packaging materials. Every time we can always go for refilling. So in turn we can save a lot on the packaging part. Okay, on the food waste, if you see how the food waste can be actually taken care of. So there are several systems already in place, in different places. You may have seen in your institutions and schools and colleges how the food waste from the dining halls actually they are actually being disposed. So planning can be done in the first place beforehand to create this mechanism and this system in place. We can do it at home also at smaller scale. Okay, we can go for keeping it for safer for sometimes, so that it can be if there is a possibility of reusing it, okay, by somebody or the family itself, and then we can go for a composting at the household level. And if not, at least we can give it to some NGOs and some agencies who actually distribute it to the needy. For regarding sustainable shopping, if you see over here, so in this one, this talks about the choices we make at the checkout can have a considerable impact on our sustainable future. Showing retailers and manufacturers that we want sustainable options will create more demand for them. So we must actually have responsibility whenever we are in the commercial establishments, and we must actually put up this straightforward demand for actually using responsible materials and sustainable actually packaging and other stuff. So in turn, actually this kind of demand will put the pressure on the actually the shopkeepers and the suppliers, and in turn they will be actually looking for such solutions to providing actually such solutions. So we must actually opt for energy efficiency. We opt for actually recycling. We should go for to the local shops. We should go as much as possible for being a natural or sourcing natural. We should actually not eat or even if we are eating, then we must eat very little of this red meat, because this is one of the highest actually impacting food material in the entire food ecosystems, that we have seen it in the one of the previous lectures. Okay, then we should help some animals also who are in the need. We should actually reduce waste. We should actually avoid actually sending our stuff to the landfills. We should actually try actually disposing of properly on site itself. We should actually go for reducing waste. We should be actually informed. We should be actually aware of actually the things and in and around this overall phenomena. So these are actually some sustainable actually practices we can adopt ourselves. If you see over here, so this is the actually slide which talks about the health of of the water body of for example oceans. So the problem, if you see, our oceans ability to buffer climate change impacts by storing additional heat and carbon is weakening. So in the recent years, there is a lot of a pressure being exerted, okay, on the oceans also, in terms of excess CO2. Well, the consequences, the temperature rising and acidification, the threatening of the earth's most productive and biodiverse ecosystems, coral reefs etc. also have been like endangered in the recent times. Extreme weather events are actually occurring at different places. Ocean acidification is a new phenomena which has been observed in the recent years. Rising sea levels are of course threatening to the several countries and communities who are thriving at the seashores, at the close to the seashores for generations. It's giving a threat to the food security and livelihood and well-being of the communities who are actually dependent on the oceans for their livelihood. Well, the tentative solutions: minimizing the climate change impact and risk by reducing CO2 emissions and to limit temperature rise to less than 1.5 degrees centigrade. So in that situation, maximizing marine and coastal ecosystem based management for mitigation and adaptation to maximize marine biodiversity, productivity, resilience and food security, and carbon sequestration by actually some means. These are listed over here. Explicitly we can go for including marine and coastal climate solutions for a migration and adaptation in climate finance and mechanisms and funds. We can go for implementation effective network of marine protected areas to cover 30% of the oceans. We can go for reducing a human presence in such places, including transformation of destructive fishing practices into sustainable fisheries, and receiving US $150 billion per year to are lost due to the inefficiencies and illegal and unregulated and unreported actually fishing. So fishing has also in the recent times has become one of the very high impacting activities from humans in the happening in the open oceans. Restoring a coastal and marine ecosystem to the store CO2 and create safe coastline. So there are the several efforts which we can actually put up from our side for a well-being of our oceans. Well, so there are as we have been discussing, there are several R's proposed for sustainable practices. These are the actually strategies, okay, which can be utilized in the product planning and designing and manufacturing and end of the life actually stages of those products by actually rethinking. First of all, rethinking comes because we have seen in the previous lectures a lot of things actually depend on our behavior and in our consumption pattern. So we must actually check our consumption pattern. We must actually check our behavior. We must actually act as a responsible citizen who actually cares about the environment. So that this is why actually this rethinking has been given over here as a first choice. Then refusing, well, at least we can refuse taking poly bags from the shops and other thermocol based actually packaging etc at the shops. That will in turn actually lead to the finally a closure of actually such products which are being given in the markets. Again, we can go for reducing actually the consumption. We can go for reusing everything. So in turn we should not actually create waste. We should go for refurbishing our old stuff so that we can increase the longevity of that product. We can always go for repairing before we throw the item out. For example, an umbrella. Okay, so in the earlier times there used to be several umbrella repairs on the street, but nowadays actually the product chains have also adopted a kind of a strategy, use and throw, and this use and throw actually philosophy of these products, the cheaper products made up of plastic and other materials, they are one of the major actually contributors of the waste which is generated in the recent years. Well, repurposing to be making actually these products turn into some other usability. We can always be creative, okay, in handling actually this repurposing actually thing for any waste. And of course the last one, recycling as the last option. We must actually recycle also. We should not leave any product even after this stage, and we should end actually the life of that over here. So for example, a zero waste kitchen. So this is actually a slide taken from a commercial company and a website where it has been actually suggested for like a consumers and like a household like a people to actually go like a zero waste actually kitchen. So how we can actually minimize the waste from the kitchen? So there are some solutions available for like a storing, packaging, carrying, etc. So these actually efforts are actually really laudable, and these will actually in turn they are creating actually awareness on the overall topic. Well, there could be like several other approaches also to refurbish, to repurpose and recycle and reuse actually stuff. So there are this is actually listed over here some ideas actually for creating gifts out of the waste material, out of the like a discarded or the end of the life stage actually products. So there are actually similar such efforts given by like several agencies, and these are being actually made available for like a public awareness and information through like a social media platforms. So we can also utilize the potential of social media for actually spreading this awareness. Well, such awareness are also nowadays part of the like our schooling. So children should be actually informed of like a such catastrophic actually repercussions at the early stage only, so that they can be like a responsible citizen later. Well, you may have seen like such color coded trash boxes. So you must actually be have like a responsibly while you are throwing any waste which you could not actually recycle or reuse or reprocess at your home only. Okay, so you should always actually keep the particular types, a particular actually class of these goods and waste material in the particular actually color coded these waste bins. Finally, our like habits, our like choices, they are the most important actually factors. Any product or any like approach will not actually fulfill, will not actually produce like such results which our the change in the habits can do that. So we must actually mend our ways, and we must actually realize the need for that. Okay, and we should actually adopt this strategy, well, which is given by like this actually researcher over here, which talks about using whatever we have. Okay, at least not simply going to the market and buying stuff. Okay, at least if we can try borrowing it from like someone in the neighborhood if they have it. Okay, or maybe we can swap it against like some article what we have, okay, what we possess. We can go for like a thrifting, we can go for even making. Finally, if it cannot be actually did below all these many like efforts, then only I think we should buy like a new stuff. So we have to be the purpose of actually this last slide is to make us aware of the need and the change what we as like a people can bring by mending our like a changes, by bringing actually change in our like behaviors in like buying stuff. So with this, I would like to end this lecture over here. Thank you, everyone.